If you wanted to play the combined Immortal Empires campaign map but didn't own Warhammers 1, 2, and 3, I've got good news for you. As of tomorrow, February 17th, 2023, you will only need Warhammer 3 to experience it, but you'll hear all the details in a moment. First, let's watch the new trailer the Creative Assembly released to announce that the Immortal Empires is leaving beta and finally opening itself up to new players.
Storm clouds gather. Our borders are beset by evil, both mundane and immortal. How long can we withstand this onslaught? We must form an alliance. We either die alone or survive together.
I concur. This threat is beyond any of us. With the Azhag's guidance...
This is just another Algates game. I see many leaders here, but you even speak for your people?
High King, this is not the time for short-sightedness.
Short? There'll be no alliance with elves while I'm High King. Only a reckoning.
We must not be blinded by our own need for power. This is the moment. Your choices will decide the fate of this world. And all that inhabit it. Make the right one!
Well, if that doesn't make you happy few want to kill men by the hundreds, then it's time to check your pulse. Today's edition of Total War News is all about Patch 2.4 for Total War Warhammer 3. It contains a fair few bug fixes, but only one item of real note. And don't worry, we will talk about that ending teaser in a moment. First though, let's get to the real big news. The biggest barrier to playing the Immortal Empires campaign has been dropped. Leaving beta doesn't actually include many changes to the global map, but who you can play as in the Immortal Empires campaign has been drastically altered, but will still be determined by what games and DLC you own. Thankfully, the Creative Assembly has taken the most logical approach to unlocking characters and has tied access to these characters to their respective games and DLC, automatically unlocking any you can already play as based on their requirements. As an example, if you just own Warhammer 3 with no DLC from any of the games, on the Immortal Empires map you'll be able to play just as the lords that came with that game. The Daemons of Chaos, Grand Cathay, Khorne, Kislev, Nurgle, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Be'lakor with the Warriors of Chaos. To gain additional legendary lords, you have to own the other games they came with or their DLC. Owning Warhammer 1 unlocks all its base game lords, with the same being true for Warhammer 2. but the DLC are still considered separate, even though Volkmar the Grim is part of the Empire. Just owning Warhammer 1, which had the Empire in it, will not unlock him. Conversely, purchasing Volkmar would not unlock the rest of the Empire for play in the Immortal Empires either. The exception to this rule are FLC Lords, which were released for free in previous games. You can only gain access to these characters by first owning their parent faction. For example, to gain access to Dwarfen Legendary Lord Thorek Ironbrow, you need to buy Warhammer 1, which had the dwarfs in it as part of the base game. Or you can also gain him by purchasing the King and the Warlord DLC, which included the Dwarf Lord Belagar Ironhammer. Both ways would unlock the Dwarf faction and make Thorek available to you. No official reason has been given for why CA chose to lock these free characters this way, but I suspect it has something to do with how Warhammer 3 checks for content ownership. If how each lord becomes available to you is still not clear enough, the Creative Assembly released an exhaustive list of what each game and DLC would unlock for the Immortal Empires campaign, and you can find that entire list in this video's description. So just look for the one you want and it will tell you what you need to have. And if you have any questions about how to unlock specific characters, feel free to ask them in the comments below or pop into my Discord and we'll gladly assist you there. It's an exciting time for new players to get into the game and we'd be happy to welcome you. On a final note, I want to point out that none of this would have happened if you, the Total War community, hadn't pushed for it. Many of us asked the Creative Assembly to do this exact thing before Game 3 launched for a myriad of reasons, but these words fell on deaf ears. It was only after a petition with over 30,000 of your signatures was gathered that the company chose to respond. To speak plainly, there is no indication CA would ever have changed the Immortal Empires requirements if the streamer Legend of Total War hadn't launched this campaign, and you hadn't all championed it. So props to him and you for making this definitive experience more easily accessible for all Total War Warhammer players. Now, let's end this edition of Total War News, looking forward to a bright, hot, burning future. That's right, it's the Chaos Dwarfs. At the end of the trailer, we got our first look at the Dawizar, identified here by their distinct blackened scale armor. These much-delayed additions to the World of Warhammer 3 look to be coming very soon, and many of you will now be poised to play them on the Immortal Empires map for the first time when that happens. If you'd like more information about what their lore is and what to expect from them in-game, make sure to click on the video linked above. Also, consider subscribing to come back here for more information about the Chaos Dwarfs when it releases. I'm Cody Bonds, and this has been Total War News. Thanks for watching.